Today's guest is Jill Schulman. She's the principal at Breakthrough Leadership Group LLC. Jill, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited for our conversation.
Great. Yeah, when I was looking on LinkedIn, your topic, your expertise around bravery was very interesting. It's something I don't know a lot about. I know people talk about it, being brave, moving forward, whatnot, but you said there's, science to this. Walk me through that.
Yeah, well, that's the interesting thing, and I'm glad you had that reaction. Of like, ooh, bravery. What is that all about? And there's science to it. So yes, so let's just define like what bravery is first, right? So bravery is defined as not eliminating fear. It is about how to move forward and take steps in the presence of fear. And the reason why this topic is now so in demand and being asked to speak at so many places and talk in so many places is in all facets of humanity. People sometimes let fear hold them back from either achieving what they want or living the life that they want. So, fear holds us back. And the reason why I have studied this and I'm writing on this and I'm researching this is I feel like there's a lot of people out there that are motivational and say like, just go get after it. Like I'm just going to get you fired up and go be brave and just do it anyway. And that falls short. It's just not enough to really help people conquer their fear and take steps forward. So what I have done is really looked into behavioral science, psychology, developmental psychology, and really looking at what do we know from science. And when I say science is you're not going to hear anything from me about like what does Jill think you should do because Jill's a United States Marine and she's like this brave person. I will be citing the evidence. What do we know that if people can start doing can elevate their bravery? So I think bravery, I shouldn't say I think, I know bravery is like a muscle. Anyone can make that muscle stronger if they do the right exercises. So, yeah, that's a good start.
It is. What are these exercises you speak of?
Well, it's been quite a bit of research and a long road to kind of settle on what are those exercises that are going to give us the best workout to grow our bravery muscles. So I like using the concept of exercise because let's just start with like if you have a weak muscle or if your body, all of your muscles are weak, then you're not going to just go to the gym once and get a great workout and expect for your body to be strong. So there's exercises and these exercises are like, and think of different parts of your body. Like if you're going to try to get your body stronger, you're going to make sure you're working out legs, you're going to do like, upper body, you're going to do back, right? So think of it that way to grow your bravery strength. There's really three different dimensions. And if you do workouts in three different dimensions, then you're going to really be braving your capacity. You're going to be building your capacity to be braver, to take courageous actions. And at a high level, there's things that we can do to build your mindset. So, what I call brave mindset is believing that you can get stronger, that you can become braver, that you can step into things you fear. So, brave mindset's one dimension area. The second area is brave action. And this is to make sure that we're not just believing that we can do things, but we're actually taking action to move toward them. Because there's some people, and that are these are the dreamers, the people that I can do this, and I have all these vision boards and all these great things that I want to do, and I believe that I can do it, but then they don't take any action. So brave action is how do we make sure that we can actually align our actions with working toward what we want, and then finally brave relationships. How do we curate the group of people that are going to support us to be able to move toward things that we really want, but we might have a little fear. So those are the three areas of exercises. Like we work on mindset, we talk about brave actions, and then we talk about surrounding yourself with the people that are going to help you, take action toward the things that you really want.
Yeah. So, which one is you need all three, but if someone was just saying, "Hey, look, I don't know where to start," I guess the first step is believing that you can improve this.
Yeah. even though the research doesn't support like they're in sequential order, I usually say just start with mindset first. Yeah, start there. Because I mean, you're totally right. Like if someone doesn't believe it's possible that they can ever do something, then they're not even going to try. So yes, mindset I think is the good place to start. And I know I'm using all these examples of like physical and it doesn't necessarily translate, but I think it's easy for your audience to understand. Let's say you decide that you want to run a marathon and you say, I could never run a marathon. There's no way I could ever run a marathon. I'm just not a runner. Just in order to, the really simple first step is how do we just help you see a glimmer of hope that it is possible for you to run a marathon? Right? I mean, it's not gonna be easy. There's gonna be a lot of training in order to be able to get there, but you can run a marathon. You just can't do it yet. So, here's the one tool, and none of this is the stuff I came up with. Like, none of the stuff that I present, I did the research on. My job is to cite all the brilliant researchers that have done the research, and then I bring them to your audience in a way that's easy to understand. So, Carol Dweck, who wrote Growth Mindset, very clear from all of her work that if you develop a growth mindset, which means that my skills and ability are not fixed, it's not like I'm born with it and either I can do it or I can't do it. I am able to grow my skills and abilities with hard work and effort. So, using the growth mindset, and there's that one word yet. So, when I start working with clients or audiences, I just say, what's the one thing that you wish you could do, but you haven't done anything yet? And so, what is that thing that you say that you can't do, and just add the word yet? So, I can't run a marathon yet. Yeah, it just opens that little glimmer of like, okay, it means that it's possible in the future. So there's just a good start for mindset.
Yeah, no, it's sort of the wording and some of the things you think about. I guess, I guess drawing awareness to that. I mean, I saw a video of a coach talking about, if a player was playing tennis, they missed it and they said something negative, immediately, the class stops and they're kind of forced to come up with five positive things that they can say about themselves in the game to try to counteract that. So made me
Wow.
realize how negative, even one, statement or thought in and around sort of that could affect you.
Yeah. So to build on that, so I gave you one little tip, but under Brave Mindset, it includes um, a couple things you just made me think of, and these are all research based, which is um, one is how do we leverage positive emotions to get us through the tough times, right? As we're trying to grow and develop. And it's easy to fixate on the negative things. So you're absolutely right. And looking at either what we're doing well, looking back and not just looking at like the gap between I'm not perfect at my serve yet if I'm playing tennis. Look at the game. So sometimes looking back at how far you've come makes you feel more positive instead of just looking at the gap between where you are and you want to be perfect. So Barbara Fredrickson is the researcher that I cite most often on her work on positivity. So a lot of people think that emotions just happen to me and I am a victim of emotions and I can't help the way I feel. So we need to be aware of our emotions, but we actually have the power to generate the emotions that best serve us. Right. And there's ways to do that. So instead of just thinking like, well, I'm just in a bad mood and I'm just going to be a miserable person to be around today and I'm not going to get anything done. Well, you actually have a choice. You can just decide to stay in that state, or you can generate the positive emotions. They're going to best serve you and your progression toward your goal. And the one that your friend or the one that you heard about in on that podcast or that video is purposely looking at what you're grateful for or good things that have happened or the progress that you've made. Really reflecting on those things actually gets you in more of a positive state, right? So the two things I want to bring up that I have when I teach my audiences and when I go into companies is generating emotions and teaching them there's lots of ways that you can do that. So use your tools to generate positive emotions because when you're in a positive state, you're going to perform better. So let's not just go to work and wait for it to happen. Let's be someone that brings in positive emotion. And then, by the way, it's contagious. So be the I mean, I could go on forever about just positivity, but that's just a little bit of a nugget. And then The other thing you mentioned, like, let's say someone is really frustrated with something. I also get into, and this is my psychology background, right? So I studied I'm an expert in psychology, positive psychology specifically, but also looking at what is that voice inside of our heads, right? We all have self talk, chatter, right? We all have that. And it's starting to recognize when we have this self talk, this chatter that is not helping us. So, this is an awareness thing. What is that self talk? Is it helping me perform at my best? Or is it not being very helpful? And once we recognize it, that's the first step, and then we can start shifting that voice in our head. The things that we keep hearing over and over again impact our performance. So again, we can just say, let's just what's happening in my mind, or there's things that we can do, exercises we can do to shift that mindset or
Yeah,
the chatter.
absolutely. So these are some of the actions. What
Mhm.
about the relationships, or I think you allude maybe the environment
Yeah.
factor into all this?
Yeah. Yeah. So let's talk about the relationships or the environment. So um, it's really in order for you to we're talking about building your bravery and doing hard things, so if you're setting a really challenging goal that's scary for you, and it's a challenge for you, there are going to be times where you're going to have your ups and downs. You're going to have your failures. You're going to have your setbacks if you're setting a challenging goal. And it's just a reality. Success is not just linear. You don't start on day one and then it's just a perfect, smooth road to get to your goal. That is just not the reality. There's always going to be ups and downs. And so you've got to surround yourself with the people that are going to support you on the path to achieving your goal. So I call this curating. So going out and seeking and selecting the people that are going to support your journey to be able to do that. Like I use the example for you if you wanted to run a marathon. Are you a runner, by the way? Or do you ever run?
I did. Well, I'm not a runner, but I did run a marathon.
Okay. So you are a runner if you ran a marathon, right? So I love it. So if we go back to that example, if someone wanted to run a marathon, um, so they would want to try to find some people that maybe have run a marathon before and had a successful path. If you just hang around people that have never run before, um, they're not going to really be the right people to help you on your journey to achieving your goal. So this is just it's really simple and practical, but who has accomplished the goal that you want to accomplish that you may not know, and go and approach them and say, wow, like this is really impressive that you've done this. I want to achieve something similar. Could you give me some tips? Could you give me some help? And on my journey to trying to achieve it, if I have questions, if I need hints, if I need someone to encourage me, can I ask you for help? So sometimes we just surround ourselves with the people that are just in our circle, but when you want to achieve a goal, it's like you kind of are who you hang out with. If you want to become a marathon runner, you should start trying to curate a tribe of people that are also runners, because that's going to support your goal and being able to get there. If not, like the people I hang out with be like, why would you want to run? Like running is miserable. Why would you want to do that? Right? I usually just go in and like lift weights, or, it's bad for your joints to run. If that's everything I hear, I'm not going to be a good runner. Right. So how do you curate a group of people that are going to support your goal achievement to do something hard? And then, so that's the environment, but then you've got to ask them questions too, right? You've got to ask them for feedback. Is there anything I should be doing differently that can help me achieve my goal? Right. So it's being a little bit vulnerable. It takes bravery to be vulnerable, to say, can you give me some feedback on what I can be doing differently? So asking for feedback, or even asking for, or telling someone like, hey, I'm frustrated. I'm like ready to quit in this whole running a marathon thing. Like, I don't even want to, like, admitting when you need some support takes bravery. But as long as you have the right tribe, they're gonna help pick you back up. So you just can't do it alone. When you go through hardship, you need people to support you. So create that environment of people that are gonna help call forth your best and to challenge you to keep going.
Yeah. No, I like how you said try, because it's not a whole bunch of the same people saying positive things. It's a mix, and I guess that mix is a little different for everyone.
Yeah, it's totally different for everyone. The only thing I can tell your viewers, and I tend to challenge audiences, so I hope this is okay.
Absolutely.
It is not the people that you are surrounding yourself usually right now. So as you set goals for yourself personally or professionally, you need to continue looking at who am I surrounding myself with, right? Like, I can give a personal example. I thought I was a pretty good speaker. I mean, I think I'm a pretty good speaker. I've been a professional speaker for like 15 years. I get great feedback from my clients, but I set a goal that I wanted to become a great speaker. I want to become a s- a certified speaking professional. I have a goal to become a Hall of Fame speaker. So if that is what my goal is, I need to find a new group of people that know how to be the very best. So that is I've got a keynote coach. I I study from and I have mentors that are some of the best, most successful speakers because that is what's going to make me better. If I just stayed with my current, everyone that knows me and works with me are going to be like, "Oh, you're so good as a speaker. Just is there anything I can do better?" No, you're perfect, right? Doesn't help you get better. So it's like you got to think about what are your goals, whatever you want to accomplish. You've got to find the people that they're gonna pull you up.
Yeah. You talk about goals. Courage, and I hear things like, have a big goal or this goal or, what's your why and all that stuff. I mean, how much of that, starts first, or do you just create momentum and then you kind of figure it out along the way? Like, how did each aspect sort of contribute to each other?
Yeah. Well, goal setting is an important one, and that comes in my second dimension of bravery, which is under what I call brave actions. So just in general, you have to start off with kind of a wish, like here's an idea of something that I want. So, but that becomes kind of more of an idea of a future destination. But that's kind of a dream or a wish. If that's what you want to achieve, then we need to set a tangible goal. So, I mean, what we know on goal setting theory, Locke and Latham are the leading researchers in goal setting theory, is we need to actually write down on paper something specifically that we want to achieve that is going to help us get to that dream or that ultimate ambition that we want. It should be challenging. It should get us out of our comfort zone so that we're growing. It also has to be meaningful. So that's where you get the why in there. Like make sure that the goal that you're setting is really intrinsically motivating to you and it's challenging. And if it doesn't really matter to you, if it's not meaningful to you, then when you're going through the ups and downs and you get the adversity and you have your setbacks and you'll never get through it. So that's why you hear people say, find your why. What is really important to you? Make sure that your wish, your ambitions are something that's really meaningful to you, because that's the only way you're going to have that long term, perseverance and persistence, to be able to achieve it. That comes from Angela Duckworth, who wrote the book Grit, right? So we're going to set the goals that are challenging, they are meaningful, but they have to be attainable for us with strong work and effort within really the next, I say 6 to 9 months is what I advise my clients. So if you wanted to climb Mount Everest, that's your dream state. We're not going to write that as a goal within 6 to 9 months. That is because then we're just going to set you up for failure because you're like, well, I tried it, I couldn't do it. So instead, we'd say, what is a goal that you can achieve in 6 to 9 months that is a step toward getting toward your goal, right?
Um,
And that becomes that that thing that we can aim for. So, we set our target and then we hit that and then we set the next target. Each of the targets really kind of lead us to that ultimate ambition. So, yeah, goal setting theory it creates a lot of forward momentum to get us to take action. And then when you set a goal too, then you have to go to the next step. Okay, I've got a goal that I'm going to climb. Let's say I live in Southern California. So I like Mount Baldy is the closest mountain. So I've climbed that mountain. It's like an easy starter mountain, right? That might be somebody's like in 6 months, I want to climb Mount Baldy. It takes like 4 or 5 hours to get up. Like anyone can do that in probably 6 to 9 months. So that would be the first target. But then now what are the things I would need to do in order to be able to climb Mount Baldy in 6 to 9 months? And then you come up with those steps. So I always use the analogy of a ladder. And I did not come up with this analogy, someone else did. So credit to whoever came up with it. I think everyone uses it. But your ladder, think of your ladder as an analogy for your goal. The goal is to get to the top of Mount Baldy. Now, what are all the rungs on the ladder that I would need to climb to make sure that I get to that top rung, right? And then make sure your ladder is leaning against that ambition that is meaningful to you, right? So I would have to start like, someone has to come up with those. What do I need to do each day or each week to be ready to do that in 6 months? So this is where you get into implementation intentions. Like, you got to get to like, what am I going to do each day or each week to make progress? And those are the rungs on the ladder.
No, very nice. Now, I mean, you talked a lot about personal goals, but I noticed somewhere you talked a little bit about innovation and the role of bravery innovation. I love innovation. What
Mhm.
do we need to know there?
Well, anytime we're talking about innovation, we're usually asking people to come up with new ideas and take risks to do things differently. So, I mean, bravery and innovation go hand in hand. How do you take that risk, right, to do things? So, I think a lot of times what holds people back from trying to experiment with new ideas and iterate is again that fear of failure. Um, so I think it's obvious how these two things, fit together, but we've got to have, maybe an ambition to solve a problem and we need to come up with an innovative idea at work to solve the problem, right? And then we've got to experiment with new ideas and they may work, they may not. And we might have some early failures. So it's taking actions to go through that innovation process. And the sooner we take steps toward what's uncomfortable and if you know a lot about innovation, it's coming up with the best idea that you implement to bring value. But many times you come up with lots of ideas and you do some experimentation before you come up with that best idea. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
I guess environment plays a role in organization for that to occur more successfully or frequently.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. And I mean, that's really psychological safety, right? I'm sure you talk about that with a lot of your guests. Like, we need to create a culture where you encourage people to take calculated risks. And when people learn that something doesn't work out, but they took a risk that was a smart risk to take and it doesn't work out, then we all learn from it, right? And we got to create an environment where if I tried something and it didn't work, I should be able to say to everyone, like, you guys, I tried this new way of doing it. And here's what I learned. This kind of worked here, but then this and this didn't work. So I'm sharing my failure so that everyone learns from it because I don't want anyone else to experiment there, right? But here's the next step. The first part of it worked pretty well. It kind of fell apart in part 2 and part 3. So now I'm keeping part 1 and then does anyone else have any ideas to help with part 2 and part 3? So you're right. I mean with innovate, we have to have a culture where mistakes are not things that should be hidden, but mistakes are things that we can share so that we can all innovate together.
Yeah, certainly sharing the mistakes openly, without blameless, is a great way for sure. That's a great idea.
Mhm. Yeah.
Great. What are other things that commonly you talk about or you help people with?
A lot of times, specifically within bravery, one of the things that's important for everyone to understand is that bravery is a skill that can be built. It's not something you're born with. And bravery isn't just bravado. It's not just someone running into a burning building. It's not someone that's joining the military and fighting for their country. Now, those individuals are brave. They're going into a occupation that requires them to put their life at risk. Those are warriors, they're first responders. We give them so much credit and honor them for their bravery. What I teach people is it's that like those big acts of courage, yes, are bravery, but what I'm talking about are the little acts of bravery and courage each day, and all those little things add up to really greater levels of success in our jobs, success in accomplishing our personal goals. But what I get really excited about is um, it has a significant impact on life satisfaction and well being of the individual. Right. And I studied positive psychology. Positive psychology is a study of happiness and well being. So, what the heck does bravery have to do with that? Right. And it has everything to do with that. So I think people make the mistake of thinking that in order for me to be happy, I just want to be given everything and I want my life to be easy. And that is absolutely not true. And I can say that with scientific certainty, right? Being brave and stepping into discomfort and challenging yourself and taking those calculated risks at work and in your personal life, that is what will lead to your your greatest life satisfaction and elevating your well-being. So I spend a lot of time talking about just the science of happiness and well-being. I don't know if that has any interest to your viewers. But we can't get in the comfort trap. And I think our world is we're getting too soft. We're getting too soft. And I'm on a mission to tell people, like, we need to stop being so soft. Like, you can do hard things and get after. Let's do hard things, and you're going to be so much happier as a result.
So, what tips do you have where people are like, okay, I want to challenge myself. Maybe I don't have a direction. How can I get ideas? I remember I got a gift from someone. There were little cards, and then your random cards, and they have all sorts of different experiences and stuff. You have to challenge yourself. Do you have any ideas where people could start if they're like, hey, look, I want to pull myself in a comfort zone. I don't have a big goal that comes to mind. How do I shake things up?
Well, I think what people can do is they can start just noticing things that interest them or impress them. Because this is where I can't tell people like what their goal should be. It's like it's got to come intrinsically from you. So as you go throughout life, and you kind of like meet someone, you're like, that is really cool that you do that. Like, I would love to do that. Right. So it really is kind of noticing what gets you fired up. Right. Um, I just recently read a book by Marcus Buckingham. He's got a new one out, and God, this really hit me. And I'll share kind of my key takeaway. It's called Love and Work is his new one, and I was like, Love and Work? Is this talking about like romantic relationship at work? What the heck is he talking about? And that's not as what the book is about. But you know what? What Marcus Buckingham talked about is he goes, as you go through life, he calls it red threads. What are the things that you just really like doing or you're really interested in? Right. And you should allow those interests or those the things that you desire. Like, I love technology, I love tech, that's really cool, but my job doesn't really, I'm not really in there. Like, maybe I should kind of move in that direction. Maybe I can
Yeah.
experiment there. So I just, from Marcus Buckingham, is like, you got to figure out what your red threads are, those little things, and kind of follow them. So for everyone, like, what do you really, what are the things that you would love to do? And life is an experiment too. Like, just if there's something as an interest, like, take a step into it and kind of experiment and start doing it. Right. This is the advice I give to like younger people that feel like at age 18, they're like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And like, is there something wrong with me? Because I don't know exactly what I want to do to dedicate my career to. And I'm like, you know what? Just what's something that interests you? Start moving in that direction and see if you like it. And you might move in that direction and go, I don't know if I really love this, but there's this other thing that I'm interested in. So, that's what I say. It's kind of like it goes back to innovation, right? Like, you try
Yeah.
different ideas, see what works, see what doesn't. I mean, where did I ended up here? I never thought when I was 18 years old that I would become a writer, researcher, and speaker on Bravery. Like, how the heck did I get here? It's like you just go through life, and like the first decision I made is I decided I want to be a United States Marine. Right. And so I went through that door and I served my country. And then the next door that opened was something that was of interest. Like, I went from blowing things up in the Marine Corps as a combat engineer, right? Well, let's be honest, I was the officer. My team did that. They wouldn't let me touch the explosives because they're really the ones that knew if it did. But so I went from there, and then I went to selling drugs. Now, the legal kind. Like, I ended up getting into the pharmaceutical biotech industry because a door opened and I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. Like, and I'm like, I didn't know if it would be for me, but the hiring manager was a former Marine. So I'm like, I'm just going to try it out. I'll experiment. I fell in love with science. I had no idea. Like, I went from being a Marine to now being an expert in science and teaching doctors about how to best treat it. I mean, how would it, but I just tried and I loved it. Right. And then that moved it, so I just think for everyone, like, you just gotta be open to different doors of opportunities. When you kind of notice something that interests you, like walk toward it.
Yeah, instead of saying, "Oh, I can't do that," just say, "Why not?" Take the first step, you said.
Why not? Why not me? Take the first step toward it and see what happens. Mhm.
Perfect. No, I love it. Thank you. Is there anything that I haven't asked you but you wanted to share? Are you working on any new projects? Anything else you're up to?
Yeah, well, my focus is definitely kind of a little bit narrow, but usually what audiences want to know is a little bit when they hear that I am a happiness scientist or someone who's an expert in the science of happiness and well-being. They want to know, like, well, what is that? And you do one little element. So what is the rest of the equation? So I think that's probably the last thing I can end with is kind of give that high level overview. So just in terms of first what positive psychology is. So um, psychology is a larger, you know, I guess field of study. Psychology really is helping the entire spectrum of well-being from people who are like at a negative 10 to all the way to a positive 10. And that's kind of a spectrum that we sometimes use. Like 0 is kind of baseline when people are okay. Anyone that's below 0 are people that are would be unhappy, maybe anxious, depressed, schizophrenic. Like these are people who are not well psychologically. I don't serve those people because I'm not a psychologist. I work on the positive psychology. And all the people who serve people that are under 0 and have those problems, there's so many amazing mental health professionals that help those people, get to hopefully at 0 or above. But positive psychology is helping people who are at 0 or at 2 or at 5, but want a better life, want to have their happiest life. They want to have the very best life that they can live. And that's what the study of positive psychology is to help people that are not clinically, have a mental a diagnosed mental disorder that needs to be treated by a clinical psychologist, but these are people that just want to live their best life. So that's what positive psychology is. And there are many different things that contribute to elevating well being. At a very high level, there are five that were originally really discovered and published by Dr. Marty Seligman, who is from the University of Pennsylvania, UPenn, he's the one who started the positive psychology movement. And the five big things that we should all know about. So I want your audience to know about these because I want them to be working in all these areas so they can live their best life. So there's an acronym and it's PERMA, PERMA. So P stands for positive emotions. So these are what people traditionally think is happiness and well-being is experiencing positive emotions, but it's only 1/5 of happiness. So that's why I say it's one thing. So what are the things that bring you joy, happiness? There's things we can do, like you mentioned, gratitude journaling. You can't be thinking of negative things and be thinking of what you're thankful at the same time. So that's why there's so much in the media about developing a habit of thinking of what you're grateful for. So positive emotions is 1/5. And then the next one, E, is engagement. This is Csikszentmihalyi, his work on flow. So this is finding those red threads that I was talking about from Marcus Buckingham. What are things that you really enjoy doing? And when you do it and you work on it, you almost lose track of time because you really enjoy doing it. So we want positive emotions. We want to find things that we're good at or we enjoy doing. So that's engagement, right? Getting into flow. Then the R in PERMA is relationships. Relationships has the most evidence, probably out of all of them, is the most important is the quality of our relationships with people in our life. So we want to really focus on creating the best relationships with people at work, at home. That contributes to our well-being. The M is meaning, mattering, right? Do we feel like when we wake up, we have a sense of purpose? Like, why do I matter at work? Does anyone care if I show up? Like, how do I bring value? Like, do I matter to my family? So, coming up with that sense of meaning and mattering, and sometimes we have to do a little soul searching to figure out, like, what impact do I want to have? What is my why? But discovering that and making sure that and it can be something as simple as just saying, like, I am, I matter. My meaning is the value that I bring for my family as a mother or it can be something as simple as that, but meaning is absolutely important. And then the last one, the A, and that's the one I focus on is accomplishment. That's setting goals that are important to us and achieving them, that sense of accomplishment, is an important contributor. And that's where bravery really fits in. Is, I think a lot of people feel like they haven't accomplished as much as they want at the end of life, or they wish they would have done more things, and what holds them back is fear. So that's kind of where I focus on helping people overcome their fears to accomplish whatever they want. And we know that when you do that, like when we accomplish something that's really challenging, we tend to look back at those moments of accomplishment or the journey to accomplish that as being some of the best parts of life. Right. So that's my little focus, but there's the whole array: PERMA, positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishments are the primary. And then there's also other things about just our physical health and well-being that also contribute. So sometimes people add like a V for vitality in terms of physical. But I mean, if people are working on all those facets of their life, right, then they have the best chance to live their very best life. So they look back in their life and have no regrets for career or personal.
Wonderful, Jill. If our listeners want to learn more about you and the work you do, where should they go?
They can just go to my website. It's probably the best place to go, because on my website, there's links to, follow me on all the different social media platforms. But my website is jillschulman.com. So first name's easy to spell, Jill. Last name, SCHULMAN.com. And if you go to my website, I have some free materials for your listeners. They can take a little assessment to figure out, like, what is how strong are my bravery muscles in these different dimensions, and then also a free resource of some tools they can apply right away. And then, I mean, if they look up my name on all the different social media platforms, I'm everywhere. They can't they can't avoid me. So, and then I have a book coming out mid-year on the science of bravery. So, um, we're trying to figure out the exact publication date, but end of Q2 is kind of the goal date for the book on the science of bravery to come out.